I have a call to order. Ms. Jasinski, can we do a roll call, please?
Mr. Grippo?
Here.
Ms. Hallen?
Here. Here. Did you hear me?
No, now I do. Ms. Ham?
Here.
Ms. Harrigan?
Here.
Mr. Martelli?
Here.
Mr. Perugini?
Here.
Mr. White?
Here.
Mr. Chairman, you have a quorum.
Thank you, Carol. We will stand for the pledge. I think Jeff's going to put up the flag, and I think we're going to have a special guest talk us through the Pledge of Allegiance today.
All right. I pledge.
Lazar's doing a good job.
Pledge allegiance to the
To the
flag
flag,
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Marlene, and the awesome dog.
My dog tried to do that Pledge of Allegiance for me.
Did a great job.
Of course, right?
Murphy's Law.
That's awesome.
Goodness, I had to run and let her out. I'm so sorry.
I can honestly say after the what seems like literally thousands of hours of Zoom meetings I've had since March, I've never seen that happen yet. I'm going to talk about that tomorrow. That's awesome.
UPS truck, I'm afraid.
Well, Marlene, thank you very much for that. Welcome, everyone. We have two other special guests tonight. We have Isabel and RJ, who we've missed for some time. Welcome back, guys. And we have your student representative report. What have you guys been up to? What's going on? It's been a while.
Okay, so a new group called Cards Against Corona was created, and Cards Against Corona was created by Grace Yu, Ishi Khan, Raiden Nassim, and Morgan Zhu, all CHS juniors. And they are inspired by stories about social media and what they've seen about the quarantine. And the purpose of this donation drive is to have residents from all over Cheshire donate handmade cards to show their support and appreciation for healthcare workers. And they also made big posters and collages, and then they donated them to Yale, Hartford Healthcare, and St. Francis Hospital. And they've also teamed up with the Yellow House and multiple CHS clubs and organizations such as NHS and Young Dems in order to spread the news of the donation drive and to get more people involved. And they collected about 250 cards and also numerous PPE. And yeah, that's it for Cards Against Corona.
Okay, so we'd also like to add that CT Kids Against Corona was created to help health workers also, and 100% of donations will go to St. Francis Hospital. And we do have a Venmo and a PayPal number and a link for a GoFundMe in our report, which we can provide if anyone is interested. Link Crew has also been creating lots of videos to send messages of positivity to freshmen because obviously we can't really have like a freshman orientation during this time. And so we have to kind of compensate for that digitally. RJ, do you want to?
CHS students and staff have created a video of poetry in honor of the annual Poem in Your Pocket, and we can send you guys a link to that YouTube video. I think it's on Unlisted, but we have it on this document we created. We could share it with you. And the Cheshire Ram has been visiting and surprising the class of 2020, so be on the lookout across town for that and on Facebook and social media.
Okay. I'll go ahead.
Go
So there's been a lot of discussion about what is going to happen for the seniors because it is their biggest year of high school and they will be graduating, obviously not in the traditional way. So we have met on May 13th and May 17th to discuss the events of planning graduation with Dr. Solon, Dr. Gad, and our class advisors, Mr. Luigi and Mr. Hunter. And we had 23 people on this meeting, which was great, and they all contributed and gave forth their great opinions on this topic. And a finalized survey about graduation options was sent by email. And for those parents and students who haven't submitted their responses, I would recommend doing that. I don't know if the form is still open, but hopefully it is. And there's many options. There's 6 options, and they're all kind of complicated, so I won't go through all of them, but RJ, go ahead.
Yes. So be sure to check out Rampage Media for current news reports and writing topics. Spilled Ink will also be releasing their yearly magazine with arts and other poetry and essays and writings that have also been included. PE and health classes are also encouraging CHS students to get out and enjoy some fresh air as an alternative to PE class. And it's a great way to relax and kind of take a break from the remote learning and the stress of COVID-19. And be sure to follow and check out CHS_2020_ College Board Instagram account to celebrate the seniors' accomplishments and future plans. Z, you can.
Okay. This Sunday, May 24th, the Cheshire High School Music Department and K-12 Music System will be compiling a Memorial Day service in place of the parade. The rain date is May 25th. The CHS Drama Department has also been recording rehearsals for their their musical Beauty and the Beast. They rehearse 2 times a week, working with logistics, and they film with Mr. Solomon on Thursdays. The actors are recording music at home with their phones and Chromebooks, and our music director has played some of the music for them to sing from. On the last day that they were in school, and we were all able to, sorry, that's a typo. We just want to say thank you to Mr. Solomon for all the help and his willingness to work with them. And they're really excited to share that link with the community in order to get a chance to kind of see, in order for the community to kind of get to see what these kids have produced. Yeah, so that's really great.
Okay. All right. Students are taking AP exams, which have started on Monday, May 13th, and will end on Friday, tomorrow, May 22nd. And we wish them good luck and success. And I think tests are 45 minutes. It depends on some of the tests. Some are 2 questions. So it's a bit different from the regular process. And lastly, remote learning has been a major transition. We all are still trying to adjust to this major process. And the staff and CPS have done a wonderful time supporting us during this unprecedented time. And a new grading system was sent out for CHS and implemented to ease the workload for students, including for quarter 4 grades being 15% of the final grade, and optional pass-fail for students who are struggling and or need it at this time. And lastly, Izzy and I would like to thank everyone for supporting us, all the staff, you guys, healthcare workers during this time. And we are grateful and appreciative for all that you guys are doing and continuing to make our world a better place. So that's all we have.
Yes, thank you.
I just want to say thank you and all the students, everyone at every school, especially the high school, for especially the seniors. I mean, I know it's been a very quick change to go online learning, but it seemed everyone handled it well. The students have been, in my opinion, phenomenal. Not just doing the work, but providing feedback and being honest how to make things better. So I was a little worried at first when we kicked this off because we really haven't done this in Cheshire. But it was real nice to see everybody come together. I mean, not that there weren't any issues, but those got worked through pretty quickly. So thank you back for all your help as well. I believe Tim.
Yeah, thank you, Tony. I don't know if I missed it. Are either of you graduating?
Both of us are graduating.
Both of us are.
Okay. Sorry, it's a situation, but congratulations.
Thank you. That's
you
really
so
sweet.
much.
And I think we get him back for one more meeting. There's one more business meeting in June, so I hope you guys can attend and we can say goodbye then. But
Tony, do we have or Jeff, do we have a sense of who might be the representative next year? At this time, do we know who might be it?
Not yet.
Okay. Thank
It's
you.
not easy to pick this sort of talent. It takes time.
But our next business meeting will be after they graduate, right?
No,
June 4th.
before.
Oh, okay. All right. Thank you.
Any other questions, comments from the board, or Ann?
Yeah, I just wanted to say, I feel like we've been robbed a little bit of your presence, Izzy and RJ. You've done a wonderful job. I do hope that you're here for our June meeting, but if not, congratulations. And thank you for all of your reporting this year. It's really wonderful for us on the board to have these student representatives out there just reporting to us, and it's a different kind of contact with the schools when we hear from the students themselves. So thank you very much for all your efforts this year, and boy, best of luck and best of best in your futures. Going into college this fall is going to be a whole different experience also. So hang in there. You guys are going to succeed. I know it. I know it in my heart. And thank you for everything that you've done this year for us.
Thank you so much. It's been an honor.
Yes, it's been a pleasure.
Likewise. Any other board members? Seeing as there is none, Isabel and RJ, welcome to stay. I think a little bit later, Jeff will have an update on the survey results, but if you don't stay for that, I'm sure he'll get to the results, after the meeting. But moving on, we're going to get into audience. I'm not sure if there's any public queue question and answer at this point or not, Jeff. I just want to remind anyone that may be watching, we have another one towards the end. So if, I don't know if anyone's watching at all, Mike, but hopefully we'll get something later.
There aren't any comments yet, but you can email CPS at CPS COVID-19 at cheshire.k12.ct.us. It's on our website, so it's easier to just link than try and remember. CPS COVID-19 at cheshire.k12.ct.us.
If you only had to say that.
Oh, God.
Thanks, Jeff. Moving on, next time on our agenda is the consent calendar, and this is an approval of a grants resolution, which I think we're going to get an update on the grants applied for so far during the school year. So who wants to walk us through that? Is that you, Jeff, or Marlene?
Yep. So you have a copy of some of this in your packet, but these are all federal grants. So we receive funding for Title I, Improving Basic Skills, Title II, Teacher Support, Title III for English Language Learners, Title IV, Student Support and Academic Enrichment. You've also heard through our board some meetings this year about the Perkins Career and Technical Education Grant. And that grant that Sean McEwen was present for at one of our meetings that he applied for, we did tune of $49,718. We also get the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act grant, one for special education and one for preschool education. We get some money also for open choice, adult education. You know about the Peck Jones money because you're always involved in that process, as well as Smart Start preschool. So the total award grants for 2018-2019 was $1,485,755. The total grant awards for this year were increased a bit to $1,591,276. What was notable this year is that the state of Connecticut applied for a waiver for us for the state, in that not all districts had the opportunity to spend some of that money. For example, we used Title IV money in the grant that we proposed last year. It was to hire some trainers around Eureka Math for our April PD day and then a day in the summer. Obviously, those didn't happen due to the campus closure. So we are able to hold over some of this grant money until September 30th, 2021. We're still waiting to see if they get a waiver for the Title IV funds. So all of this money is used towards professional development. It's used towards supplies. Some of it goes towards salaries. As you know, the Peck Jones money has been used for science and funding some field trips. So we're happy to receive it and continue to apply for it every year.
Thanks, Marlene. Ann has a question. Actually, I think Ann was first with a question, then Adam. Go ahead, Ann. Plus also some earlier, but
Yeah, actually, Adam was first, but I'll go since my mic is, sorry, Adam. Marlene, I'm just wondering if these grants are in line with gotten in past years, or are they exceeding? Are there some new ones? Which ones are new? Which ones are sort of repeating? And I asked this just a brief synopsis, so not everyone individually, but just to give us an idea.
They are very much in line with what we've done in the past. I'll remind you that this is my first year in this new position, but in doing a brief history of what we've received in the past, yes, similar. For example, Title IV, 10,000 last year, 10,000 next year, this year, last year. So yes, they're all about the same.
Thank you.
thanks, Ann. Adam, you next.
Okay, there we go. Thank you. Marlene, did I hear you correctly that the $49,000 grant for the manufacturing equipment was approved?
Yes, it was.
Oh, that's great. That's great.
We're very excited. Now we would just like everything to open up so we can get the training and get the equipment and get it delivered.
And then for Title One,
Mhm.
if I recall, that's where all of the what's it called? The federal grants that are coming through for the what do you call it? Stimulus. I don't know if it's a stimulus package or whatever savior package it is. Is there any hope that we're going to be getting any more Title One money? Because I think right now it was at like 99,000. Was there going to be any more from those emergency funds?
I think we're talking about two different things. With the Title I money is about 119,000.
Okay.
In the past meeting, Jeff was referring to the percentage that we are eligible to apply for based on our Title I funding numbers.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Sure.
Yeah, I believe the 99,000 Ann was talking about was what came from the state through the
Yeah, the CARES Act. Yes.
Yeah, we was the other night, and I think last week in town council meeting. I forgot. It seems like January was so long ago. These grant details in terms of the monies is listed in our budget book in section 12. Details out the Perkins grant, IDA grants, Title I, Title IV. But we do have that in case folks want to refresh their minds. But so awesome to hear we got the machinery. Is the machinery gotten in yet, or is just we're?
No, we're in the
Everything
process
excluded.
of planning for and organizing all of the details to that, which would be challenging on any day. But in this day, it's, a little more.
Then I guess deal with that stuff, right?
Yeah.
Thank you. So go ahead, Marlene.
No, I didn't know if you wanted me to go into the details of the approval of the grants resolution or if you wanted to do that.
Sorry,
Tony,
Tim. Tim, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. I want to make sure I heard it right. Marlene, this makes sense to me what you're saying, but I just want to understand if I'm looking at this stuff correctly, because I thought you had said before you sort of wrapped, I think 4 different things. You said that it was in the packet somewhere.
Do you have the grants report end of year?
Yeah, it's actually further down in the finance report, Tim. It would maybe jump the gun a little bit on the detail, but
Okay.
the resolution basically is in our policy where you basically give me authority to apply for grants.
Okay.
That's the calendar, and we can touch a little bit more on detail. Kind of go back to that when we get down to finance.
Yeah, I apologize for getting too deep into grant stuff early on. It was
It's all right.
No, it's okay. I
We're
just
gonna do
want
it sooner or later.
Yeah, no. I just want to be careful about, truthfully, as I'm sitting here and I'm trying to click on a million different things. After last meeting, I kind of mentioned something that it just wasn't perfect, which is fine if things aren't perfect.
Yeah,
But
we have
I
the
just
link.
want to be able to find what we're discussing quickly. And
Yeah, that's why we kind of jumped the gun a little bit. That's all.
okay,
I apologize. That may
No,
have been me.
No,
No big deal.
no. It's not a problem. It's just I want to be able to get to the stuff, so that this is no big deal. Thank you, Marlene. I appreciate it.
Sorry.
yeah, and I'm sorry. So we're under a consent calendar on the agenda, and the grants resolution is what we're really going to be discussing. So, Marlene, yeah, since you have a great voice, and why don't you walk us through the resolution?
I mean, since I did so well with the pledge, Tony.
Yes. If you want your
I
dog to
want to
chip
hear
in.
your dog perform the resolution.
Cue barking dog.
So in accordance with Board Policy 3290, Business and Non-Instructional Operations Grants and Other Revenue, the Board of Education by resolution shall authorize the superintendent to apply for and accept any and all grants as may be determined appropriate by the administration. Therefore, the superintendent shall investigate new sources of revenue, whether state, local, or federal, propose new revenue sources and associated programs to the board for approval, and implement measures necessary to apply for and receive additional revenues. So in accordance with this policy, the superintendent or his designee is authorized to sign all required forms for state and federal programs. In addition, the superintendent shall inform the board of all grants applied for and received, with the exception of those pursuant to Chapter 1973 of the Connecticut General Statutes. At this meeting, under the report of Finance Committee, it says that I will provide you all with a report of the grant activity for the current school year.
Thank you, Marlene. So there is a motion. It's listed on our agenda and packets. Does someone want to make the motion to approve the consent calendar?
I can do it.
Is that Faith?
Yeah.
Go ahead, Faith.
Okay. I move that the Cheshire Board of Education approves the consent calendar as presented.
Thank you. Is there a second? Adam beat Ann, and Adam's got it. Any further discussion on the motion? Go ahead, Tim.
Yeah. So I mean, I just want to know. I want to be clear on it. If Jeff goes and does something and it's a grant with which a majority of the board does not agree, do we have to vote on it before he applies for it, or spend?
No. This resolution provides me the authority to apply for grants. And I notify the board. I would think that it would be beyond extraordinary for me to find a grant that would be applicable to our mission and vision that the board would disagree with. But typically it's the same list of grants that Marlene just walked through. It's the federal grants, the Peck Jones grant. It's a rare bird that we find an appropriate grant that we qualify for that I can apply for. But this allows us the facility, as we've had historically, to just allow me to sign off for the grant and notify you rather than try and get you to approve each individual grant and the time it takes for that.
Okay. And how many times since you've been superintendent in the last 4 years, how many times has it been you've become aware of a grant and needed to apply for it, say, in less than a month?
Outside of these grants, 0.
But these grants do sometimes pop up. You're not aware. I mean, if it's a recurring one.
Yeah, the last Perkins grant, for example.
Okay.
That was the supplemental Perkins grant that came up. It had a very short window. And then we did bring that to you.
Okay.
And I think I signed that one, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So they do come up, and it can be a window of, say, less than 2 weeks.
It can occasionally be a short window. Yes.
I think
Okay.
we had one last summer, Jeff. I don't think we ended up getting it, but it was a federal grant.
Right.
And it was like, I was on vacation
With SEL.
talking and trying to get it
Yeah.
through. Yeah.
it was an SEL grant
Yep.
that we had applied for and didn't ultimately receive, but
Okay, and is this something that we vote on annually?
Yes.
yes.
Okay. Okay.
The
All right,
provision for this grant piece is explicitly in the policy, in the board policy.
Okay.
So I think that, when the board policy was written, it was with the intent to provide the superintendent flexibility to be able to pursue fiscal resources as expeditiously as possible, but nevertheless still notify the board.
Okay. Okay. All right. Okay.
Great.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Any other questions or comments from the board members? Seeing there is none, the motion presented is that the Cheshire Board of Education approves the consent calendar as presented. All those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? One opposed is Tim. Motion passes. Thank you. Next up on the agenda is reports of standing committees, starting with curriculum.
Okay. Curriculum committee met Monday, May 11th. The subcommittee unanimously approved a recommendation to the full board for approval of a new textbook titled Essentials of Comparative Politics with Cases. It is available for community review and review by full board members at the office for, I believe, the next week. Is that our 4-week period, Marlene, or you're on mute? Okay.
Yep. You have to unmute, Marlene.
I'm checking on the calendar.
It's either about a week or 10 days.
The policy states 2 weeks. We were giving it 4 weeks due to COVID.
Right. So anyone interested in reviewing should email or call the superintendent's office or any one of us, and we can get in touch with everybody. Then Kevin Hanlon presented the results of the grade 3 Otis Lennon School Ability Test, or OLSAT. The test measures students' abilities and helps instructors identify enrichment needs among individual students. 241 students took the test. The average score was 104, which is about the 50th percentile, and only slightly lower from last year's test results. So again, these are to identify enrichment needs among individual students. So next, Mr. Hanlon presented the results of the LAS Links test, which tests for EL proficiency. 51 students in elementary, middle, and high school took the test, and based on the results, 21 students met the exit criteria, which indicate language proficiency capable of accessing the curriculum. Marlene Solano then presented a survey of student feedback regarding remote learning. It's a rather detailed survey, so in the interest of time, I will refer those who are interested in what was recorded to go to the curriculum committee link on the CPS website. Heads up that the administration has started posting a day in the life videos on CPS Facebook page, features staff and faculty in the district, and I'd encourage you to take a look at these short clips. They're fun and informative. Finally, and you've already heard about this, the Cheshire High School Music Department Chair, John Cooner, gave an overview of the CPS Memorial Day community performance. Will be held May 24th at 1:30, with May 25th as the rain date. Be put on by the K-12 bands, choruses, and music classes to honor memories of our fallen warriors. Participants will perform from porches, stoops, lawns, driveways, with neighbors joining in. And we're asking everybody to make videos to share on the CPS website. Links to the music and arrangements are posted under the news tab or news page on the CPS website. And it's hoped that the whole community, families of students as well as those of us with and without kids, come out and support the kids. And there was no public comment.
Thank you, Faith. Any, excuse me, any questions on the curriculum report? Excellent. Seeing as there is none. Next up is, thank you, Faith. Next up is reports of the Finance Committee. We have a few areas, starting with the financial report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think what I'll do first, since everything is a little more relevant, I'll just go through the to report on the April 27th meeting, which is sort of a nice lead into everything else we have here. But basically, the April 27th meeting. If I just pull it up here for a second. No. Here we go. Essentially, Dr. Solon gave a presentation to the board regarding the status of the operating budget. He noted we are at the time 6 weeks into the pandemic, which has created a monumental shift in how our district is providing instruction, and reminded the board that they are a very efficient and lean organization. Then we went through a whole bunch of different budget scenarios, which I believe Mr. Massiano will discuss a little later on in this meeting. And that's essentially the gist of the entire meeting for April. I suppose I will go into the finance report narrative here. Give the state of the state as of May 18th. This report is based on actual fiscal year expenditures through May 18, 2020. The projected year-end totals reflect an ending balance of $1,047,600, which incorporates estimated savings and expenditure reductions resulting from the closure of our school buildings and migration to remote learning due to the COVID-19 pandemic. The remote learning period effectively began after our schools dismissed on March 13th and will continue through the end of the school year in line with the governor's executive orders. It is important to note that the ending balance is still an estimate and may need to be adjusted as we continue through the rest of May and the month of June. The Board of Education will need to pass a motion at its fiscal year-end meeting scheduled for 7:30 a.m. on June 30, 2020, to request that the Town Council allocate the remaining balance to either an unexpended education funds account or back to the town's general fund or a combination of both. The $1,047,600 ending balance is a result of an estimated net expenditure reduction of $756,317 directly attributable to moving to a remote learning model in response to COVID, with the largest reductions in our transportation costs of $315,840, cancellation of our spring sports of $100,000, reduction of contracted cleaning services of $80,000, net reduction of substitute teacher costs of $75,000, and reduction of staff hours of $58,000. The remaining net expenditure reduction of $291,283 is expected to come primarily from placing an 80% expenditure cap of non-payroll accounts for our schools and departments. Please note that the net reduction includes a $200,000 increase required to provide services for special education students due to potential loss of skills during the remote learning period. A more detailed analysis of the above summary information is included in the accompanying financial report as of May 18, 2020. The timeline of key past and tentative future events related to COVID-19 are as follows. March 13, 2020 was the last day of classes with students in our school buildings. March 18, 2020, remote teaching and learning begins for students. March 18, 2020, grab and go program for student meals begin. March 25, 2020, Governor Stay Safe, Stay Home executive order takes effect, and most district employees begin working from home. Excluded from remote work are facilities management and staff, as well as the staff working in the grab and go program, which includes food service, nurses, instructional assistants, bus drivers, and our building maintainers. Thursday, June 11, scheduled last day of remote school for students. June 16, scheduled last work day for teachers. And Monday, July 6, 2020, scheduled start date of extended school year services for special education, subject to change. I believe this concludes my speaking, and I'll hand it over to Mr. Massiana.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Grippo. I will just talk briefly, because the board members do have in the package the detailed numbers, for each line item, how we got to the total expected $1,047,600 budget reduction. I will comment that that improved by $100,000 over what we had reported last month, and that's primarily because of two things. One, the bus contract, we did reach the final agreement with DATCO, and then when we projected out the numbers, that increased, the total savings there by approximately $80,000 over what we had reported previously. We also have an additional month of contracted cleaning that we won't be paying for, so that was approximately $40,000. And then we had some offsets that went the other way. So, I suppose the good news here is that the projected savings that we have between COVID and the expenditure reduction does seem to be holding up. I always note that, we still have a lot of work to do to close out purchase orders, encumber for the things that we need to purchase over the summer, some of the maintenance items. But I feel pretty confident that we should be able to end, with this balance. The board, as Mr. Grippo reported, will have to decide at the fiscal meeting on June 30th, how they want to, allocate and make a recommendation to the council for the allocation of the remaining balance that's available. This is not typical. Typically, we do close the books with a zero balance, but, this year, because of COVID and the other savings we're trying to achieve to help offset a potential budget reduction for next year, we do intend, to have that ending balance. I'll stop there and see if there are any questions or comments or concerns on the numbers. I can bring up the spreadsheet, but I won't do that unless somebody wants to see it.
Well, I don't see any questions coming in yet, but I just wonder, and I was going to talk briefly about this later, but do you want to give an update on the meeting town council had the other night? There was a Tuesday night where I think it was just you, myself, and Jeff that just chimed in. They had some last questions on the budget, but basically you covered this and the list you shared, which I just sent out as well from that presentation you gave, indicating the changes. This is what I want to. Do you want to talk about the access funds account that was approved by the town council that we voted on? I think it was like over a month ago to hold some of these funds. I do believe they are going to put in at least that $200,000 that we're going to need for the summer. If not, I can talk about it later. I know it's been approved.
No, I think we could talk about it now. I know that
it's kind of related to some of this some of the savings that we got to deal with.
So the Connecticut state law allows for unexpended education funds to be deposited into a non-lapsing account, and it's subject to approval by the town council in our case, or any fiscal authority, depending on what it is for each town. So the council did pass a resolution essentially setting that up. But technically, the Board of Education has to pass a motion and a recommendation ultimately to the council for the amount to be deposited. And so we won't have that until we're at the close of the fiscal year on June 30th. And we could plan for it, notify the council, but that the good news is that essentially that structure has been approved, by motion of the council. There were, a couple of caveats that were added as part of the motion, which, I think are relatively standard. The council has the authority to approve the rollover, the initial deposit, and then the rollover into subsequent years if the non-lapsing funds aren't spent. The council also has the authority to take the funds that are in that non-lapsing account and transfer it to, the general fund if they so choose. But, I guess the important part of it, whatever is deposited into that unexpended education funds account is for the, Board of Education funding to use. So once it's there, it's at the discretion of the board to use those funds for
Yeah,
education.
so let me just clarify. I'm glad you brought up, there's a couple minor changes, and I did talk to Sean and Rob. Actually, you responded with detail to Jeff and us yesterday. So it's because the town council is responsible for setting up the account. They're essentially responsible ones for closing it. So I'm not worried about that change. And as far as when town council decides to close that account, they're certainly not going to just take the money, put it somewhere without talking to us. Again, the whole intent of this is once the money's there, it's used for educational purposes. The idea was we really don't want to keep this around forever. Have it be kind of like this, I don't know, additional fund. This is an odd year where we have so many savings. So I'm pretty confident these money is not going to be there for very long. So I'm just glad he passed it. I don't have specifics yet. I guess we're going to talk about it before the end of June, if not sooner, probably in finance. Once we get a budget number back, and once we get closer toward the end of June, what number has to be put into this account, to go into next year. So we'll figure that out.
Right. Makes sense. There's a question on the floor.
Yeah, I have a question, Tony.
Yeah, sorry, I muted.
So, and it goes.
Adam, yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. So, all right. So let me make sure I understand this. So if we decide to put in whatever it is, 200, 250 into the account out of the surplus this year, and we don't spend it within some period of time, the town council can take that money back. Why would we? My understanding was that when that money went into that account, it became Board of Ed funds permanently, to use. But so maybe I've missed something, because they can undo it whenever they like. Is that really what we're saying?
The way the resolutions, and I'm going from memory, there's two options that the council has. One is at the end of the following fiscal year, after the deposit was made, they can roll it over. So in the resolution, it states specifically that it's for the council to roll it over into a successive year.
For the Board of Ed to roll it over? Okay, fine.
No, but once it's in there, as long as it's not rolled over, it's there for Board of Ed use.
When you say roll, and I apologize, we don't need to belabor this, but when you say roll over, are you saying we have a surplus and we want to have it put into that account for future use, or no? Okay.
And there's an initial deposit, and let's use what's going to happen, this year. So at the end of 1920, the board will, pass a motion to deposit, let's say $200,000 to that unexpended education funds account.
Right.
So that'll be there for 2021.
Right.
If we don't use it by the end of 2021, the town council can vote to roll it over into 21, 22. Or they can.
Then roll
Or
over
not.
into the same account for the following fiscal year.
In other words, extend.
No, I understand that, but the point is that at the end of the fiscal year, at the end of the next fiscal year, even if we still have some money in the account, the following account, it's not our decision to make. We will ask them to roll it over, but it's not for the Board of Ed to be able to control.
Right. It's the council's decision to allow that money to be used in the following fiscal year.
Okay. I don't understand the reason behind that, but okay. Fine.
Go ahead, Tim. I'm sorry, Adam, you were added, Tim. Sorry. Adam, you're up.
My comment was covered by both you and Vin's comments already, so I'm fine. Thank you.
Go ahead, Tim.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I'm just going to follow up on Catherine for 1 second, try to keep this really simple. Vin, are you saying that the council chooses to roll it over into the following year's operating budget?
No, I guess to keep it in that same account, an
Yeah.
unexpended education account, and extend the use of it for one more year. Maybe that's an easier way to explain it and call it a rollover.
We can have a discussion offline because yeah, okay. Thank you.
Well,
We're not,
Probably the best thing to do is forward the resolution, and
Okay.
everybody can take a look at it, and then we can discuss.
Yeah, the other thing I'll do too is I'll forward the information Sean and Rod explains what's behind these decisions and how it works. We're just going to talk about it. If you guys
That
could.
would be quite helpful. Thank you.
Absolutely. The good
From
news
my
is account there, and we have someplace to roll money into.
Right, and that's a good move
now.
for us. I think it will be very helpful for 2021 to have this ability, to move some of this year's unspent funds to next year, because we will very likely need them. And I'd be surprised, depending on the amount that's put into this unexpended education funds account, I'd be surprised if we don't use it.
Right.
Well,
No, I'm
there's-
sure, but it's more the principle of the thing, I suppose. So that's all.
Faith, did you have yeah?
I do. I just
Awesome.
want to, there's a lot of confusion about this account, and I just want to ask the question, if we did not create this account, we're going to end the year with unspent monies, correct? What would have happened to those, Vin?
It would go,
Back to the
any
council?
unexpended funds goes to the general fund of the town.
Yeah, so this is preserving up to $200,000 of those unspent funds for us to use either through fiscal year 20 and then 2021. Is that correct? Or actually even, but I mean,
Well,
I'm just saying,
whatever
otherwise
amount-
we lose all these funds if we don't set up this account.
Well, yes. The only thing I want to say is the 200,000 is what's being discussed as special education, but the board, can make a motion that if it's 1,000, 47,000, 1,047,600 is deposited to that unexpended funds account, the board has the option to do that, and then it's up to the council to decide if they will accept that full amount or partial amount. So I'm just trying to, explain the possibilities.
But I just wanted to clarify that the option is if we don't create this account, the money goes back into the general fund and we don't have any control over it. Is that correct?
Correct.
Correct. And we've had years where, in years where our medical trust fund balance was a little low, if we had a surplus that year, I think there were times we put a little bit towards our trust fund, but the rest generally went back to the general fund. And, you can argue you lose control over it, absolutely. But, if we have a surplus and they'll spend it, we don't have legal means to preserve money and store it somewhere ourselves for next year. I mean, that's why there's accounts kind of there to help us with that. So it would go back to the general fund in general, but then, town councils, past, present, and future would argue that, well, it goes back in the general fund, it's money that'll go towards your budget next year. So you're not necessarily losing control of it, but, again, it's once it leaves our budget, our purview, it's out of our hands. And that's just, unfortunate. It is what it is. I'm not worried about any negativity around that. It goes back to the general fund, but this year is an anomaly because, as we all know, and I'm sorry to keep going on this, Van, you want to go on to the medical trust fund report, but we're going to have a balance. We all know the discussions we've been having on the budget process. I believe this savings is going to help our budget next year. So, we're going to have a discussion soon on where this savings is going to go. We put it all to make a recommendation to put it all into this access account. Seems logical, but we're going to talk about that at a future finance committee meeting.
Okay. Can I just follow up to clarify?
Yes.
So the 200,000 we're tossing about is a hypothetical. We can't ask for that whole 1 million plus.
Yes, we can ask to put the whole thing in there.
Okay, thank you.
The $200,000 is not so much a hypothetical, it's just the initial outlay that, Jeff, Marlene, and team think we're going to need to help make up some special education costs and prepare for opening of schools for the fall. The number can go up or down,
Mhm.
but so far they know that's going to be something that has to happen.
Okay.
Any other questions? All right, I think we're off that topic. Next.
Okay. I will move on. The next thing I just wanted to show the board members quickly, I'm going to share my screen, is an update from E-Rate. E-Rate is a program that's sponsored by the federal government, and we use it to offset some of the costs that we have related to technology. So can everyone see this, screen with the nice pie charts in blue and orange on it? Anybody?
Yes.
Thank
I
you.
see it,
Okay.
but it's fuzzy. So
We
I don't know.
did.
I mean,
All right. I'm
There
there
we
it
go.
I'm not sure if people at home could follow along. I'm following along on our document.
Okay, so very quickly, you could see that this $36,432, that's the funding that we are approved to receive from E-Rate. And this is for two things that we use here in the Cheshire Public Schools. This $11,520 is the funding we're receiving for internet access, which we purchase from the Connecticut Education Network. Our E-Rate funding is 40%. So the total cost is $28,800. E-Rate is paying $11,520 of it. This $24,912, that's the cost that we pay for the 10 gigabit per second fiber optic that we run between buildings to ensure that our network speed is what it needs to be. So the total cost of that service is $62,280, and the $24,912 represents 40% of that. And you could see a little bit lower, if you could see my mouse, we've received a total of $837,296 in Category 2 budget over the life of the program that we've been basically requesting E-Rate funding. And you could see all the way down the bottom here, $876,263. That's the total E-Rate funding that we've received since the beginning of this program in 1999. So the only point that I wanted to make the board is just to share, and I do try and update the board annually, that this is a good way to help us maximize the technology services we provide. It is a federal government program that we take advantage of. The funding that we're getting this year is just for those two services, because that's all we qualify for. In the prior two fiscal years, we received about $190,000 from E-Rate, and that's because we had upgraded our Wi-Fi across all our school buildings, and that's been completed. So it is a good way for us to take advantage. It's not, this is money that when we apply for E-Rate, it's deducted from the bill. So it's not like we lay it out and get it reimbursed in the form of a grant. It just comes right off the top. And the last point that I will make on this is that E-Rate is funded by anyone who has telephone service. If you ever look at your phone bill and you see a little line there for, E-Rate, all of you are paying E-Rate, and E-Rate is used for schools and libraries to help offset costs of, technology services that are very, very specific. So just wanted to share that. Any questions? Okay. Next thing I wanted to provide an update on the Grab and Go program. And Can the board members see this?
Yes, I can.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
So these are the days that we distributed meals to students, or actually all Cheshire resident children 18 and under, since the program began March 18th. This was the food distribution that we did today, May 21st. We served 5 meal days today. 397 cars arrived at Dodd. We served a total of meals for 914 children. We had a breakfast and a lunch. So we distributed a total of 9,140 meals today, and the cumulative meal count is 118,366 meals served. And this dollar amount all the way to the far right, that is the total reimbursement we will get from the USDA based on the stated and the programmatic reimbursement that we get for meal services. So the program continues, to go very, very well. The number of students that are being served has not dropped. It's staying around this 800 to 900 range every meal distribution, and the program does end on June 8th. I did want to also let the board know that even though this program is ending, we are notifying families that there are alternative food distribution programs that will continue through the summer. Meriden is the closest, but they will be notified of that. And also any families that are eligible for free and reduced lunch, the state has passed a program where essentially a debit card will be provided in the amount of $360, I believe, per eligible student for the purchase of meals over the course of the summer. So that's the grab and go update. Are there any questions on that?
I believe Adam has one.
Yes, sir.
Hi, thank you. Firstly, I don't know if this was a news headline. Perhaps I must have seen it in the paper, but to see that over 100,000 meals were served, I was absolutely shocked by the number. And I was like, man, that can't be right. But now that I'm looking at the report, I'm seeing it right there, and I'm completely shocked at the number of meals. And kudos firstly to all of the staff who had to put together 100,000 meals. Every year except for this year, Tony and I, we cook a little pasta supper, and that's just for 200, and that's quite an effort to do for one day. Never mind all the days that the staff has done this. So kudos to the staff, and it just goes to show how the community's really been depending on this program during these hard times, and it's great that we have it, even though it will be ending, I guess, in a few weeks. But it was great that we were able to do that for the community. So thank you.
It's gone extremely well. And, I would like to acknowledge, one of the nice things about my job is that I get to, share with the board, and the community, the great things that we do in the school district and in school district operations. So I don't really do any of it. Madeline Diker is the manager of the food service program, and her and her staff have done an awesome job with that. And then going back to the E-rate funding, that's Michael Papa is our technology manager, and he is, excellent at, not only getting us E-rate funding, but saving us money. And he's a very skillful negotiator. So when we're buying any technology, including Chromebooks, if, I never worry about the price we're getting, because, it's not going to be any lower than Mike Papa can get us. So Mike and the technology staff will do a great job, to help us not only deliver technology, but save money where we can.
Thanks. Tim and then Andrew have questions.
Yeah, just because of the comment that Adam made, it sounded like you were saying that they're making the meals. Is that correct? I thought this was distribution.
Well,
and everything was prepared.
We're preparing the meals. Yeah. So there's a couple of days we're distributing 2 days a week, but we're prepping, right now they've really got efficient at it. So they're prepping 4 days and serving 2. And maybe on some weeks they're even consolidating, the total program down to 3 days. And so prepping means that, they'll take all the components of the meal, a milk, a protein, a vegetable, a fruit, package it, into a bag, and that's considered a meal. And again, these are meals that meet the USDA requirements. So if we're serving, for a typical car has 2.3 students in it on average. So and if we're serving for 5 days, we're serving breakfast and lunch. So they're getting 10 bags that have 5 breakfasts and 5 lunches times the number of children that are in that vehicle that we provide for. And actually, I could share some pictures. So later on in the meeting, I'll do that. While someone else is presenting, I'll show you what the meal looks like. It's pretty fascinating, not only the 118,000, but the component of each of those meals. It's staggering, and it's awesome to watch how quickly they prep and provide the food.
I'm curious, in terms of the distribution and the prepping, how many people are involved in that sort of on a daily basis?
It's between 30 and 40, and that
Okay.
includes food service staff, our custodians, because if you imagine, we're serving, I forgot the count of number of tons of food that has been distributed, but you're moving a lot of,
Yeah.
cartons, to get the food prepped. And then once it's prepped, to load it back into the refrigerated truck so that it's placed in storage until it needs to be distributed. So it is, again, it's awesome to watch. It's a true assembly line, and everybody's doing it with a smile on their face. And I think the people that are doing the prep and distribution feel, that they're doing the right thing for the community, and they get a great deal of satisfaction. We also have a school nurse that's there every day to take people's temperature, before and after, make sure people are properly social distance, wearing their masks, those types of things. Instructional assistants. Some of our bus drivers are also involved, in that total count.
Okay.
I do want to just chime in really quickly. Faith brought up the videos that we have streaming on all of our social media platforms. We do like 30 seconds, minute and a half, depending on, the video. One of them is on the meal service process. So for you guys or anybody who's watching at home, they want to jump on Instagram or Twitter or our Facebook page, you can see that there, and as well as a number of other really interesting videos.
Andrew. Andrew.
And you mentioned that the meal program is working on reimbursement with, I'm assuming, the federal government. How does that work? Are we going to submit the spreadsheet showing how many meals we serve? It's dollar for dollar reimbursement, or?
It's a fixed price per meal. The fixed price is for each lunch that we serve, it's $3.41, and each breakfast is $1.84. So we basically, Madeline Dyker, the food service manager, will take each of these meal counts. There's a report that gets submitted to the state. The program is funded by the federal government, but it's administered by the state. And yes, we will, the reimbursement will come in, and, I know I say we, but it's the food service program that is outlaying the funds to purchase the food, and they're going to get the reimbursement. So, one of the things that I had mentioned at our prior meetings is that, whether or not the reimbursement we get will cover, in this case, our labor and the cost of the food. And to the extent it doesn't, we would have to make a reimbursement, back to the food service program. And we're still working through those numbers, but, I don't expect it to be a substantive amount. It's not going to be a budget changer for us.
Great, thank you.
Okay.
Do not see any other questions.
Medical
So-
benefits?
Yeah.
Okay. I did share with the board members the updated report through April 30th. We had a relatively high claim month in April of $931,000. However, as I had reported previously, this year's high claims are primarily, well, are predominated by some very, very large claims that we've had to incur for individuals. So, the good news here is that this month, or through this month, we've received $475,644 in payments from our stop loss insurance, because whenever a claim for an individual exceeds $175,000, we have stop loss insurance that reimburses us for everything above the $175,000. And we're not done with the stop loss reimbursements. There will be some more coming in May and June because, again, we have some extraordinarily high claims. The trust fund balance, we started at $3.7 million this year, is currently at $2,691,555. So we're still in the 3 to 3.5 month of claim reserve range. The average claims, though, I want to point out, is running about $865,000 per month this year. Last year, it was about $759,000, and the funding that we're making is $681,000 per month. So, the reason our reserve balance has dropped is because we're contributing $681,000 per month, but claims are $865,000 per month. Hopefully, this is just one of those high claim or large claim years that subsides. And I'll just cross my fingers and hope that, we can get through year end and still have 3 months of reserve. And, I know that we'll continue to discuss this when we get to the next budget phase. And then stop loss, we are working on the renewal for stop loss for next year, and it's been shopped out. We buy our stop loss as a member of CT Prime. It's looking like this year's renewal will probably be around 13.5%. The market is running 20% and above. So considering our claims are large, and that they're not only large for us, but large for the town side, and we do our stop loss together like we do our medical benefits. But the renewal will be reasonable, but not as low as I was hoping for. So I'm still working through that process. So that's the good news, bad news. We're getting stop loss reimbursements, but we may approach the total stop loss reimbursements equal to the premiums we paid, which is why our rate's going to go up for next year.
Thanks, Vin.
That's medical benefits.
Thank you, Vincent. Faith had a question.
Yeah, Vincent, I think you touched on it. Just want to make sure that the increase in the average claim, that is because of the nature of the claim, or is it inflation?
No, it's mostly because, of our $8.6 million in claims so far this year, well above 1.2 million is from 4 claims.
Okay.
So it's really predominantly driven by some extraordinarily large claims this year.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, there's several classes of very expensive claim types for insurance companies, procedures, things that I can get into, but it's not just Cheshire that sees these. It's, and I think for Kath and I and Ann, who've been here longer, I think this is probably the most we've seen in 1 year. I think these higher dollar claims. So, but I'm not sure the trend every year, but it is happening in pockets. So
yeah, and I will add, it's not related to COVID. Our COVID costs are actually being tracked separately, by Cigna, and they're very small right now. Now we haven't gotten all our claims in, but so far, it's literally hundreds of dollars that are attributable directly to COVID so far. So if that continues, that's a good thing for us.
excellent. Any questions on the medical report? Everybody's so happy. It's great. No one's tired. Thank you, Vin. And I think we have one more item. Is that the grants report? Or we?
I think you did it.
Yeah, I'm not sure there's much more to add to it.
I think we covered that one.
Excellent.
Hey, can I ask one question? Sorry.
Yeah.
It does have to do with the grant. I just am curious about, and I got into late before, the mechanical or the manufacturing equipment. What is that? What are we getting?
Remember, it was the Sean McEwen
CNC
came up to
lathe.
our Board of Ed meeting, and it was the manufacturing equipment in that room that we toured. It was the knee. Yeah,
Believe-
yeah.
Oh, okay. All right. Cool. All right. Just curious. Thank you.
Oh, good question. So much time's gone by. I almost forgot about that grant. So thank you, everyone. Up next is School Modernization Committee. Andrew.
All right. And if anyone wants to, Anne, if you want to add anything, just let me know. We've had 2 meetings in May. The first meeting was on May 4th. Both Colliers and Arcadis, the 2 firms that responded to our owner's project manager RFP, did a Zoom call with the committee and presented. Both highly qualified firms. Both did a wonderful job with the presentation. Both had knowledge of the school district and what our goals and objectives are with the modernization plan. The consensus of the committee after the presentations was to move forward with Colliers and to authorize Vincent and others to negotiate with them on their fee proposal, which the RFP allowed us to do by town charter. That was done, and last night we had a meeting on the 20th, and at that meeting we unanimously decided to move forward with Colliers. Also, the proposal that we agreed to move forward on was just with the phase 1, phase 2 work in the amount of $41,000, which can be amended from time to time as the work continues to move forward. There's question about the timing of. Initially, we were going to be looking to submit for a referendum in November. This coming November, it was talked about and decided that we're going to be cautiously moving forward, and we don't think we're going to have a project ready for the November deadline, which I think everyone here knows that COVID has affected everything, and school modernization is not short of that. Also, Richard Gustenberg did a great job. There's been a lot of teacher staff input sessions at all of our schools where they've gone and met with all the faculty and staff. And I think that the theme of all of those meetings were the aging facilities, the lack of space in order for teachers who are out learning new programs and initiatives that they'd like to bring back to their classrooms. They're constricted by our aging facilities. So that was the big push, as well as some maintenance issues, which are going to definitely be addressed this summer and moving forward with as we move the program forward. Other than that, that's pretty much my report for school modernization. If anyone has any questions, comments.
I believe Adam does.
Thank you. I missed last night's meeting, but the meeting before where you chose Colliers, it sounded like the committee was committed to moving forward to bring something for referendum in November, and it sounds like maybe that's not going to happen any longer.
That was the sense that the committee came forward with yesterday. Yes, I mean there wasn't a formal resolution saying that we're gonna hit the ground running and we're gonna begin the process. But in order to go to referendum, we'd have to have something in September, which would have to be a project, which we'd be out to bid, out to the voters. So it's just,
Yeah, it comes down to basic math, not Common Core math, just basic math. Like, simply, sadly, the committees, there's 2 months plus lost. If we had Colliers, let's say back in, I don't know, March, then, and one of the things they're going to have to do with us is draw a Gantt chart timeline of things that have to happen to get something defined as a project. And beyond that, not just define what it is you want to do in costs, but have ample time to get public engagement to understand what the costs will be and time to market that and communicate that. Something we really didn't have last time. if you look at the timeline, there's concerns that we're going to try to, get there and potentially, cut our nose to spite our face. And doesn't mean we're going to slow down by any means. And quite frankly, there's still a chance we could probably do it. But, again, there's just a little bit of cautious that the committee does not want to rush to referendum without having a solid plan, solid numbers that the public understands. That's what it comes down to. But there'll be more discussion on this in the next meeting. But
And just, I mean, the overall climate, I mean, we're looking at a 0% tax increase across and looking for, no increases in cost to go forward with a $80 million project or whatever the number is going to be. It just doesn't seem really palatable at this time.
So does that push the timeline out another year?
we don't know yet.
We don't know. There was
Could
talk
be
of,
next spring, could be early next year. We don't know yet.
Okay.
I believe Tim had a question. Yes, Tim.
Yeah, thank you, Tony. I'm just going to highlight this for everybody. Probably all of us are aware of this. People sitting at home may be thinking about it, so I just want to say it. Although I wish this were not the case, we are likely talking about a different electorate, different turnout. Presidential election in Cheshire, probably 80 to 90%. A local election, another 12 months later, probably 35 to 40%. A special election, or special referendum, you could probably drop down to like 10% easily. And you could have wildly different results based on different electorates. And I don't know that has anything to do with party affiliation or anything like that. It's just different people who turn out at different times. So just highlighting that there is, I personally feel at this moment in time, it would be rushing it to try to get it done, like Andrew said, by September with the project fully vetted and public support and stuff. But the electorates change with each time they are asked to turn out, election day or referendum day. Thanks.
Yeah, one last thing, and I asked the question last night. What was Collier's feedback? On our timeline, and Andrew, you're probably closer to it, but the feedback I got from the committee was that it's the timeline is what it is, but they'll do what it takes to get us there. But we do want to hear from them too when they hit the ground running soon. What has to happen to get us to that point. So again, it's it's nobody's fault. Can't say that the committee by any means was wasting time. They've been working incredibly hard. It's just that this COVID thing really threw a wrench into an already an aggressive timeline. But again, no one, I can tell you, even talking with the town council and Rob, nobody wants to see this prolonged in perpetuity. We can't have an ongoing, facility master plan study for 2 years, 3 years. That's not going to be the case. So I'm confident if we can't do this year, then it will have to be, early next year or a time that, we all think is appropriate. But we're still going to move as quick as we can. Well, the committee will.
it's not an idea that we would be going to the voters with. There has to be an actual project. I mean, it's the 20th of May. We don't even have anybody under contract yet. They need to vet, we need to sell, they need to design. I mean, it's just unrealistic.
Awesome. Any other questions? Let me see. I think there's one more. Apologize. Adam, did you have something?
Yeah, just so I get a sense of what could happen. So if we miss the November referendum, which sounds likely, the actual grant application has to be in by June 30, 2021. Is that correct? And if town charter, I believe, says that if you do decide to hold a referendum, you need 6 weeks notice. Is that correct? So I wasn't sure if it's something where you miss November, you could pick it up and push it forward. If we're saying that we missed 2 months, does that mean that we could push it out 2 months and, I don't know, I guess vote on it in the dead of winter or something like that in order to hit the bonding deadline for June 30?
I don't recall. Vin and Andrew or Catherine, do you guys know?
I mean, the critical date for which is that we have to file a construction grant application with the state is June 30th. The idea of trying to hold a referendum in November is, to Tim's point, to try and take advantage of the, electorate, the folks who will be coming out to vote for the presidential election. So and we still would have had to meet the June 30th, the following June 30th deadline. You could apply earlier, but you can't apply later than that. So essentially what you'd have to do is a special referendum, let's say in the spring, if you had a building project ready to go that you wanted to get referendum approval on. Makes sense?
Tim has hand up, then Ann. Or his comment.
Yeah. So Andrew, when you were speaking before about the likelihood of this project moving forward, say by September, by November, just to confirm, this is basically your profession. Not that you're not getting paid for this at all, but this is where you work in this space, right?
Right, correct.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Sure.
Ann.
I just wanted to comment on, we can go to a special referendum anytime that we designate. And in response to Tim's comments, really it's our job to inform the public and to get this information out and to get them to the polls whenever we decide that we're ready, that we have the information. And, that's not a bad thing. We can whip up the electorate, get them to the polls. I mean, if this is a big money project, there'll be interest in it, and I don't see that as a problem, having a special election, a special referendum specifically for this one item. I just wanted to throw that out there.
It's a great comment, Ann. Thank you. Adam has a smile. I'm sure he wants to say something.
In a rare convergence of ideas, I agree with Ann on this point. and that this whenever we do decide to hold this referendum, it will be, I think, well attended, just because of the. I think even Mr. Solon had put out. I think they had put out a survey a while back about when people come out to vote. And it was something like 85% of parents come out to vote when education is on the ballot. So I think that the referendum question, whenever we decide to hold it, and I think it is good, since we lost time, to have the project fully vetted and fully understood by everyone, and that I think people will come out to enthusiastically vote however they choose to vote.
Agreed. And again, I can't emphasize, and Andrew and Ann are on the committee, and Catherine helped start it, so she knows that the goal behind this is we got to produce enough information, dot the I's, prove to the public that we looked any nook and cranny, justifying the cost of whatever comes out as ideas, and definitely do not want to skip the part where we get the public to take a gander and test what we have. So anyway. Again, I want to sound like anyone was voting out, we're not going to do it, but there's just some issues came up. They had some concerns. We're going to talk about that. I'm sure we'll know by the middle of June how this is trending, and we'll adjust as necessary. But stay tuned. There's more to come. One last thing, I think Andrew, I don't know if you mentioned it, is that the other thing that Vincent's going to start looking at for the committee is a couple of quotes for an updated enrollment study. We're going to need that as well, so that's going to be underway soon. And that's all I had. I don't know, Jeff, if you want to add any more, but I know you've been in those meetings as well.
No, other than to just again thank Rich Gussenberg, Jen Bates, Amory Kemp, the people who spent a lot of time visiting all of our faculty, built all of our facilities around the district and the faculty, hearing them out and soliciting our staff for their feedback, their input in the process. It's greatly appreciated.
Yeah, agreed. They're doing great work.
Is that presentation on the website from last night?
I don't know if Arnett uploaded it yet.
Okay.
But we can have it sent out to the group.
Great.
In fact, you know what? I have the present. I'll send it out to us. I got it the other day. Since it's already been shown, it's public information anyway, so I'll get out after the meeting. All righty. try to move things along. Up next, other standing committees. We don't have other standing committee reports. Approval of minutes in our board
Hey, Tony?
agenda.
Tony.
Yes. Oh,
Could I-
yes.
Just on personnel.
Did we have a personnel meeting?
No, but I just wanted to make a comment because probably have it upcoming.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, so we will begin as the chair of the personnel committee. We will be convening in beginning soon to do the superintendent's annual review. And one other question, one question for Jeff. Since the COVID lockdown, so called March 13th, have we had any separations of any teachers from the district?
Resignation
You did.
of an art teacher at Doolittle.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, Tim. I forgot. We were just talking about the personnel stuff yesterday. I forgot it's it's June next week. So thank you. Yeah, we'll be talking about that soon. And I don't believe there's any other standing committees. So moving on, in our agenda, we have links to our Board of Ed meeting minutes, which now I just lost my tab here. Give me 1 second. So we had meetings held on April 23rd, 2020 and May 7th. Are there any changes from the board members from those two sets of meeting minutes? I personally do not have any changes to make. Seeing as there is none, would someone like to make a motion to approve the meeting minutes?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion.
Please do.
I move that the Cheshire Board of Education approve the minutes of the Board of Education meetings held April 23, 2020 and May 7, 2020.
Is there a second? Catherine seconds. Any further discussion? Seeing as there is none, the motion is that the Cheshire Board of Education approve the minutes of the Board of Education meetings held April 23rd, 2020 and May 7th, 2020. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
It is unanimous. Awesome. Thank you, team. Up next is superintendent's report. I'm sorry, most important one. The secretary, Catherine, do we have any correspondence?
Mr. Chair, we do not have any correspondence.
How many years have we been doing this song and dance? With the, hopefully I'll have some at the end of the meeting, but thank you. Up next is superintendent's report.
Thank you very much, Mr. Perugini. Given that tonight is Victoria Perugini's 16th birthday, and we want to get Tony out of here before her 17th birthday, I'm going to keep this as quickly as I possibly can. Ms. Solano and I have been planning for teacher, student, and parent debriefs to be held at the end of the year around remote learning. The unfortunate reality is that we may be in a similar circumstance come the fall. And the surveys have been fantastic, but we want to do a little bit more to learn about the experience and see how we can improve on that. The results are not in, to steal a line from Seacrest, but we are having a lot of feedback from our parents, our senior parents, and our senior students around graduation. We've said many times, this is their ceremony. Our job is to just do the best we can with it, particularly given the fact that this spring has been so difficult and our seniors have lost so much. We want them to really drive the boat on this one. And the early returns are that it looks like there's a strong consensus around August rather than having a June ceremony, in the hopes that we can have a more traditional ceremony and have more flexibility with social distancing come August. I know all of us are hopeful for that, our students and their parents seemingly as well. So that looks like that's going to be the case, but we hope to send out more information tomorrow when more people have had the chance to respond. I did not get an exact count on the students. I know the parents were 240 when I last checked. The fall, when we come back, number one priority, if we're not here, is connecting with kids. Adam and I had a great conversation about that the other day, and the fact that I think our remote learning went so well because our students and our staff were already connected to one another. There's just more personal accountability on both sides to be invested in the relationship, and we hope that if one of the things that Marlene and I and our team are spending a lot of time on now is, if we are not able to meet face to face come August, how do we forge those connections from a remote perspective? And this is one of those where we're absolutely hoping for the best and planning for the worst case scenario. I just want to give a shout out to our town manager, Sean Kimball, today. Back in, I think it was January, February, I was in a first grade class for a morning meeting, and it was really great, except one of our students in Miss Marangola's class, Graham Healy, was disappointed. He had a great Cheshire pin that he had lost, and the whole class seemed to know about this, so he was apparently fairly bummed about it. And so I reached out to Sean. They didn't have any pins left. We made pins, like, months go on, COVID strikes, but today Sean and I had the opportunity to visit Graham at his house and give him a pin. It was a real thrill for him to meet Sean and just be part of that. And so I do want to give Sean a shout out on that one. At this point, we started collecting library books. This year, the end of this year, is unlike anything we've ever had to deal with because of the emphasis on safety and social distancing. So we initiated the library book collection process yesterday. That is ongoing. It's going to take a while. Highland alone has 2,400 library books out. So what we're doing is collecting the books in bins in front of the school. If any of our parents are watching, you should have received an email indicating what books your child had out from the library. We're collecting those separately just to get those out of the way. And then we'll start collecting things, the other items like classroom library books and classroom textbooks and other items as things go on, and exchanging. We'll be providing, kids everything out of their locker and stuff. It's going to be a process. And so we've just kicked that off now, and that'll be continuing through the rest of the year. The state has asked our students to engage in a survey called Thought Exchange. There's no personally identifiable data collected, but what they're trying to do in working on the committee through ACES, as I do, one of the state committees, we take that information that kids provide about their remote learning experience and try and use that information to better plan for the fall. So unless there's any objection, I'm going to be sending out, it's a very brief survey where kids just write their ideas around, different elements of working in a remote environment. And then they rate what other people have said. It's actually something that Marlene and I have already started looking into for next year with our mission and vision revamp on our 10-year plan. Thought Exchange is really a neat tool that we've been using, and I saw the parent results. It gives you just basically a word chart where the words that are most often responded to are bigger, and the words that were less often responded to are a little bit smaller. So they vary in size by the number of people who comment on each word. Safety, to nobody's surprise, was the number one word that parents had mentioned with respect to opening next year. Finally, I just want to say that we are very close to the end of the process in the Darcy interviews. I want to thank all of our staff who've participated in that process, as well as tomorrow, the two finalists that we have will be taking tours of Darcy, and parents will have the opportunity to interview them. We have a group of parents that'll be meeting with those two candidates and providing us feedback as well. We hope to appoint that person at a meeting later this year in June, so that person can be on board to start next year. That's all I have for this. I tried to shoot through it as quick as I could, and I don't know if anybody had. I saw a couple of questions pop up.
I have one. I'll save it toward the end. So let me work back here. I think starting with Adam, Faith, and Andrew. So Adam, you're up.
Yeah, and and hopefully this won't be needed for the fall, but as I don't know, but before our meeting, you saw that I was kind of messing around with our Google Meet a little bit, where I was, I discovered a couple of different new tools for backgrounds and that sort of thing, and you know, uh, I'm just wondering if there seems to be a lot of extensions and stuff that can be added to help teachers for attendance and viewing classrooms and stuff, and I wasn't sure if that was things that were being used with the teachers already, and also perhaps that if we are going to begin next year like this, possibly that there could be some additional tutoring for the students on how to better or more effectively use the technology. Um, just because it seems like there's a lot of powerful tools that the Google Suites had sort of set up in anticipation for someday that a school system would switch over to this sort of system. So I just thought, that I know our IT folks have been doing a great job, and that perhaps the technology should be further examined, just even on the student side. So,
Yeah.
thanks.
So first, I would just say that since this COVID situation happened, there have been an explosion of extensions available on the Google platform. Some of which, I think lend themselves really well to us. Some of them are not so relevant. But today we had a meeting of our tech leaders across the district, as well as our instructional leaders across the district, who met with Marlene, provided tremendous feedback. And part of that was, we realized that we need to provide more coaching to our staff so that there's a deeper understanding about some of these new tools. We did that in April, but already things have evolved. So as they continue to evolve, we're providing more professional development to our staff. Some of that will be done this June with the extra teacher days. Some of it will be done in August when our teachers come back. But part of that training will be how to support kids and understanding all these different extensions and trying to create some consistency in Google Classroom so it's more familiar for kids to know how to submit work and things like that. And Marlene, I don't want to leave you out because you'd spent a lot of time with our folks today. Is there anything I was missing there?
No, I think you got it all. And just what you said, Adam, some of the training our kids around the use of this technology. They know how to use the apps and things that they're familiar with. So that was a point that I was sharing earlier with Jeff, that we need to spend some time with that. So that's being baked into our plan.
If we start teaching on TikTok, our kids will crush it.
It's sad, but probably true. So it was Adam, Faith, you were up, and then Andrew. I'm not sure if you're just, and then Ann after Andrew.
Yeah, Jeff, is there any way that the public can access these meetings that you're involved with ACES?
Oh,
You know what? I don't know that, Faith. I don't know if they're. I'll look into that. My next meeting is Tuesday, but I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I know I think it might be a closed meeting. The information is public, but like they can't. I don't know that people can participate, just like we have. Some of our committee meetings could be work done in public, but not a public meeting. I think this is the same way, but I'll look into it.
Okay, because and the other thing I understood, and I'm just reading something from CABE that came out yesterday. These rats.
CDC guidelines.
Well, I love their acronyms, but the regional advisory teams, I understand.
Yeah, that's the one I'm on.
All right, I had understood there was going to be an even more localized team involving parents, board members, whole 9 yards. Is that going to happen? Because I do think that just in talking to parents, there is a sense that they want to be involved beyond a survey.
Yeah.
They want their ideas heard.
Well,
And I worry about this governor. I do.
Okay. Well, the first thing that I think all of the groups have substantiated, within their the RESC groups, is that this really has to be driven by medical guidance. So we're working closely with the medical guidance, like the CDC guidelines that came out yesterday. Those we're reviewing all of that to ensure that we adhere to that. That's what our local health department is adhering to, and then we have to plan education around that. So when we get to that point, I think we'll be communicating more with parents. Right now, we're just trying to look at what potential options may look like in the event of a variety of medical situations, everything from absolute entire remote learning to, if we return as normal, and every option in between.
Okay, I would just, I don't know who you take it to, but I have been speaking to some parents, and there's a real concern that this is going to be foisted on them, and and I just don't want us to get caught short with a plan that doesn't necessarily fit our district. But we'll see what happens. So just wanted to raise that.
Yeah, and nor do Marlene or Vinny or staff or myself. So we're certainly working toward that end.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Awesome. Andrew, you're up.
This is back to the parent and student survey. I just want to know whose idea was to do that and who actually drafted the questions, because what I've been hearing is a lot of positive feedback from folks about the survey, and other districts have not been doing that.
You talk about the remote learning?
Yes, about the remote learning survey.
Yeah, that was a collective effort. Marlene, I think Marlene drafted most of the questions. We decided very early that it was going to be important for us to get feedback from all constituents. So we've also, I know you mentioned parents and students, but we also surveyed teachers. And I think, we're really proud of that fact. I know we've been cited in national publications twice in the last couple of months for our work around our remote learning rollout. And we're really proud of that fact. And yeah, Marlene gets the credit on drafting the questions.
Great job. Great job.
Agreed. Ann, you're up.
Great, thank you. I agree with Andrew. I also have been hearing a lot from parents, especially in the neighborhood, because I'm walking every day again, lauding the efforts of the teachers and everything that teachers have been doing, which brings me to the comment that I wanted to make very briefly. Was one of the first things that you said, Jeff, in your report, which was on having meetings for debriefing, which I think are really, really important. I had been just involved in a debrief at Quinnipiac University with the language department in which I was teaching. And I can't emphasize enough, yes, you can get training and all that on online teaching and learning and remote instruction and all of that. But to share ideas with what worked for other teachers is so valuable, because you'll just come up with so many ideas, and different things work and some things don't work. And this is what teachers do. And we have really superior staff of teachers in our school district. And but nobody's perfect, right? You do things in the classroom, and when you're forced into these unusual circumstances, some things just don't work and other things work really well. And you need to bring those nuggets out so that everybody can hear about them and work those into their scheduling for next year, because there will be some remote learning come the fall. I'm pretty sure it's not going to maybe never be business as usual again in the classroom.
Yeah, I tend to agree with that. Thank you, Ann. Adam, I think you're up.
Thank you. Just a quick one. In regards to the plan for reopen in the fall, is does Chespercott have any say in that, or is it strictly a top down from the state, from Secretary Secretary Cardona and the health department from the state side, or does Chespercott have to sign off on something?
Right. Well, the governor can issue an executive order when things are relaxed, however. So, for example, our graduation, um, the executive order was in effect modified to be more relaxed. And in that situation, we do consult with the local health district. Now, I say the local health district because almost always it's Mora Esposito and Farmington, or but for example, when we're looking at Farmington Polo Club is an option for our graduation, we would have to consult with the health district there. And so we've already done that. So yes, the health district is involved, but if it's an executive order to close the schools, it's really not it's a moot point then.
Thank you. I really have a question. I just want to get back to my answer. I agree. It is impressive. I mean, listen, I know Jeff likes to throw up that slide that shows our ranking on a per pupil expenditure. And, I always kind of joke that it seems the less we spend, the better we do. We look at those numbers and it's not really, it's kind of facetious, but, so there's a reason I think the district does well in general on a number of fronts is because our staff, is because our educators and all the support that goes around that. So the fact that, within 5 days, we were able to get on learning up and running, and granted, no, it wasn't perfect and we've evolved since. That does speak a lot to the CPS school district. I think everyone involved, everyone that's been helping. So I know other school districts, other board chairs have said that, they gave up on that, initially because they weren't ready, or some districts just didn't have the funding or economic equity, in town to make things happen. So I lose sight of the fact that as we're heading into June, it's been a very tough, but I think rewarding 3 months. So I do want to give kudos to all of CPS. So thank Dan for making that on the forefront again. The only thing that bothers me, I got to tell you, the more we stay online, the more concerned I get about our students. Not so much from a safety perspective. I was just reading something in an article, I think it was in the Times a couple days ago, where some experts talking about what's happening with learning development, especially with the younger students that are online that are missing out on the interaction, the social building skills they have in class, and so forth. Longer this goes on, what those effects might look like. So I applaud online learning, but there could be a point where we have too much of it. So, but I know, given the feedback and the dialogue that's going on, they're trying to make that as impactful as possible for everyone. But we just don't yet know what the fall is going to look like. Although I think we're starting to see some inkling of some of the restrictions we might have. I just go back to the state's guidelines on colleges and campuses this summer and early fall. I believe they already said it a few weeks ago: 6 feet apart, wear masks at all times, teachers wear masks, cafeteria. I don't know how we're going to be able to do that in our classrooms or in our cafeterias, or have our teachers try to give a short lecture wearing a mask. So we'll see what happens. But I think once June winds down, that's the next biggest hurdle, is that unknown planning for fall. So it's going to be a little bit of a busy summer, unfortunately. But I want to thank everyone for their hard work, and thank you, Jeff, for your report. Are there any other questions on the superintendent's report? I think I had someone. Adam.
Sorry, I just wanted to add one last thing. To piggyback on your comments, Tony, when you say the less we spend, the better we do. But when it really comes down to it, it's not only is it the devoted staff, but it's also the devoted parent or guardian who's sitting next to that child to help them get the work done. We're in this community, we're fortunate perhaps to have parents or guardians who are we'll say more dedicated, or at least apparently well, I'll just leave it as that. We have dedicated parents and guardians in our community, and you know, just from my personal experience, at least with a younger child, is that sometimes there's a force of will on the parents' part to help that child get through the great curriculum that's been put together by our staff. But that and I so I think that, you know, if you're going to do a debrief of the staff, that's one thing, but to piggyback with Faith is to have a debrief of the parents. I don't know how you can do that. And I don't know if Google Chat has that ability. I know there are other tools out there to handle like 200 people at a time to be able to do more of a town meeting type thing. But I think it would be important to have the parents be able to debrief and decompress all of their pent up observations of what's gone on the last many weeks. So I think it would be good to be able to do both.
We did plan on a parent one, and I don't think, you know, 200 people in a meet is really effective. So we'll you know, keep the groups smaller, even if, you know, they're a drop shorter in time and smaller. It's more effective and more efficient for people to do that anyway. So yeah, that's definitely part of the equation. And you know, there's no doubt that there's a partnership that exists between our parents, our staff, and I don't want to forget, certainly most importantly, our students.
Yeah, and thanks, Sam, for the parent side of things. I think well, it's a mixed blessing, right? We know we have some employment issues all over the state, country. There are parents out of work at home, even in Cheshire. I think the silver lining there is that at least they're home now with their kids, you know, online, trying to, you know, help out where they can. I'm hopeful that, you know, as the summer, fall picks up, and I hope folks get back to work. You know, we want people to get back to work. It's got to happen. But if they're not going to be around during the day and the kids do online learning, I think they might have some ideas they want to share. So I piggyback, you know, planning ahead for that. So thanks, Anna. We'll try to find a way to get, you know, as Jeff said, more of their debrief as we move forward. It's going to be very important. Thank you. Anybody else? Seeing as there is none, I think we're almost there. Hang on, I lost my my agenda link. Any audience? I have no old business. We have none on the agenda. Do we have any audience question or comments, Jeff?
Matter of fact, we do.
All right.
Mary Burnham, patiently watching from home. She just wanted to indicate that she's concerned that the budget does not take into account the additional needs that may occur when schools reopen in the fall due to COVID-19, especially the need for smaller class sizes. Just wanted me to share that. I agree. You know, obviously that's a real concern. It's from a budget perspective, things could be very difficult. They could, who knows, if we do start remotely and there could be savings there. It's a little bit of a wild card. But certainly we have two things that we're very sensitive to right now. Staffing, we want to make sure that there's, you know, really good ratios to spread kids out and create relationships, and maintenance, because if kids are coming in, we don't know what sort of you know, sanitation steps are going to be required to ensure a safe environment or a cleaner environment. So that I mean, just the idea of face masks alone, if we bought one per week for our students, it's going to cost us 200 grand a year. Ben was doing the math on that today. So that's once a week. You know, I don't know how that's going to be feasible.
Yep. Any other questions?
That was the only comment.
Thank you, Mary. I know Mary's kind of helping me keep me in check and make sure the agendas are posted, and she's been trying to help get more community and public input. So thank you, Mary and team, for your help getting the word out there. My update's really quick. I really don't have much of one. So for public watching, I'm not sure how much the public is aware that over the last 4 or 5 weeks that the town and Board of Education have been looking at our budgets in great detail to see what we could possibly postpone or trim back to help the town achieve a potential zero mill rate increase, or I guess no increase going into 2021, solely because of the COVID economic impacts that we're starting to feel, not just in Cheshire, but around the state. And it's not so much, obviously, the immediate impact as it is, next year and the year after, because, a lot of jobs are lost. And I can tell you, even the clients for my company, a lot of employees they laid off, probably not going to hire most of them back anytime soon. So we're worried about a protracted downturn, and can't really forecast all that, but people are hurting a little bit in Cheshire. So one of the things the town was trying to do is, hey, can we keep the status quo the next year or two, ride this out, and keep people employed, and without losing a lot of services or, frankly, devastating education. What can we do to our budgets? And I spent a lot of time on this tonight. All those meetings are up, recorded between the town council budget sessions and our meetings. But we did have a summary meeting, just a quick touch base this past Tuesday night, because the town council will be adopting a budget next week. They have until May 29th, I believe Tuesday, they'll finalize number, and I think Thursday they'll be voting on it. So Vincent and Jeff gave them a quick update on the savings that you talked about earlier. And I believe it was David Bowery that asked, hey, if we get any more detail on what those other costs might look like for school opening COVID, let them know before the week's over. So, I would just ask that if we have, I would bring up the issue of PPE protection, because we don't know what the state's going to require for that, and we don't know what they're going to fund, if anything, to make that happen. So I'd err on the side of caution. But long story short, our budget request increase this year was 2.1 million. Obviously, if we got a near zero increase, that's a pretty huge number to try and make up. I believe we identified close to $1 million in potential reductions in line items we talked about a month ago, plus some of the savings we have from COVID that we're probably going to use again anyway. It's going to be very tight. And so it's not just the board that's been looking into this, has been a town, and basically every employee bargaining unit's been reached to see if there's anything they can do to help just over the next couple of years. So that's still in process, but I imagine by June 4th, we'll have a budget number, and we'll start talking about what that's going to entail moving forward. So stay tuned. And for those that are watching, I encourage you to tune in to town council meetings when they have their final approval and see what's happening. It's a lot going on. That being said, I don't have anything else, and it's kind of getting close to 9:30. So we do have one more item on the agenda. Let me just bring it up here. I can announce I don't actually have the new upcoming meetings yet. We do have a Board of Ed business meeting on June 4th. Unfortunately, I don't have the calendar in front of me, but we can post that up on our Board of Ed website. I did ask the chairs to schedule or think about scheduling any remaining meetings before June 30th. We have personnel coming up, finance certainly with the budget, possibly planning, and potentially personnel. So once those dates are known, we'll have them out there and put it and published for review. That being said, we do have one more item. It's executive session. So I will need a motion to adjourn to executive session. We will not be with no vote to follow, so essentially be ending the meeting there. Do I have a motion from the board to adjourn into executive session? Who wants to take that?
Mr. Chairman, I would like to make a motion.
Okay, Mr. Grippo, please do.
Move that the Board of Education adjourn into executive session, including the superintendent, a superintendent and chief operating officer, to discuss collective bargaining agreements and the superintendent's evaluation with no action to follow.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Faith. All those in favor? It's unanimous. Thank you. We will be adjourning executive session. We will not be coming back. There will be no action to follow. Thank you for everyone, Mary, for watching. And Mike, let us know when we're ready. We'll adjourn to executive session. And